See, everything that we do, how we dress, how we talk, how we carry ourselves, has to be in line with who we are in Christ, including sex. I want to talk about sex, right? Because a lot of times when we talk about sex, we think the Catholic Church has a very negative view of sexuality. And I want to be very clear that our church teaches that sex is good. Sex is awesome. Okay, please don't let that be your only takeaway when you go home. But sex is good. It was created by God. Do you know that? I mean, sometimes I think we don't really realize. We think that Adam and Eve are having sex and God was kind of looking down perplexed, like, oh, their bodies fit together. That's so weird. What's going on? He knew what they were doing. He created it. And in Genesis, it says, it is good. See, Christ came into the world to show us what love is through his body. And we know that love is a few things. Love is total, faithful, fruitful, and free. Christ shows us that most perfectly on the cross. Boom! I give myself totally to you. There's nothing more total than a man bleeding on the cross. I give myself faithfully to you forever. The gift was given to us as the church. I give myself freely to you. In the Garden of Gethsemane, he says, it's not my will, but yours. I give it freely. I give myself fruitfully to you. By his death comes new life. This is what love is. Love is free, fruitful, faithful, and total. What kind of love does this sound like? Marital love. Picture this. One day, if you're called to marriage, you're going to be in a room with all of your family and friends, with hopefully the love of your life. And you're going to look down that aisle at this love. And you're going to come up to the priest and say a few vows. And the priest is going to ask, do you give yourself freely? And you're going to say, yes, I'm here freely given. Are you here totally? Through sickness and health, bad breath with this guy, I'm here totally. Are you here faithfully, forever his? Yes. Are you here fruitfully? Are you open to having children? That's why in the Catholic Church, contraception is not accepted. Because love and life always come together. And you say yes. And so you proclaim, I give myself totally, faithfully, fruitfully, freely to this man forever. Check this out. When you go home after you get married, you proclaim with your body, I give myself totally. There is nothing more total than that act, right? I give myself faithfully, like I'm here with you forever. I give myself fruitfully. I'm open to having children and new life. I give myself freely, like this is anointed by God. It is a gift. When you have sex outside of marriage, what you're saying with your body is a lie. See, God has a plan, and he created our sexuality to be a part as a visual witness to marriage. Where do you see that kind of love? That total, faithful, fruitful, and free love? See, God has a plan for our sexuality, that it's made for marriage. And so we're called as women to guard and protect this wonderful gift that God has given us. And throughout history, there are countless examples of wonderful saints and martyrs who have lived this life of chastity. One of my favorites is Saint Maria Goretti. She's actually one of the youngest saints in our church and a martyr for chastity. She was assaulted at a young age and ended up being murdered for her chastity. So if you need someone to pray for you, she's a great witness, an example to turn to you. See, God has a plan. And when we live outside of that plan, that's when we come in with so many wounds and brokenness. I had a friend of mine who once lost her virginity, and she had waited with expectation. I remember she came back to tell me this story, and she told me that she cried because the guy didn't hold her. I've had friends who've had sexually transmitted diseases who felt like there's no way a man could ever love me. I'm tainted. I'm broken. I've had friends who have given the gift over and over thinking that this is the one, this is the guy, only to have their heart broken again and again. And I don't know your story. Some of you might be here and maybe you've had a ton of boyfriends and you've dated and you've done various things. Some of you, maybe you've never been kissed. But all of us here as women, if we live in this over-sexualized culture, know what it feels like to have our innocence taken away. Whether that means a perverted joke that a guy said on the bus to school, or a movie that we watched, or just a boyfriend or a friend that didn't treat us with the dignity and respect that we deserve. All of us know what that feels like. See, we are created for so much more. We are created for a life-giving love and a sexuality that is full of such goodness. And don't you want that? I mean, I'm single and I want to wait. I don't want to have all these wounds and these issues to take into my marriage. I want a love that will last forever. I mean, isn't that what you want too? Isn't that why we get all crazy and snotty over these love romance stories? To see a man who will fight in love for their bride, that will do whatever it takes for the goodness of them. Isn't that what you want? Let me ask you this. Do you want to know if your boyfriend really loves you? Ask him if he'll protect your chastity. Ask him if he's willing to die, to put down his own needs for your goodness. Then you'll know if he really loves you. Now, I know some of you are thinking, that's great, Mary. That's great talking about love and this vision of marriage, but it's too late. I've already, had sex. I've already done this. I'm already tainted. And I don't know your past. I don't know what you've done. And I don't know your wounds. But I know that Christ comes into our wounds and conquers them to bring new life. And there is hope. If you're here and you struggle with masturbation, please know that that is not just a guy issue. There are a lot of girls now that are struggling with this sin, and it is a sin. See, our bodies and our sexuality are made to be a gift to the other. And masturbation is just an inversion of that. It's about self-gratification, and it is wrong. But please know that if you struggle with any sin, or you have any past, our God can make you new. He can bring new life. We're going to have some time later to talk about some of these real wounds, these real issues in a later segment. So just hold on. Know that you are worth fighting for dying for, because Christ has already died for you. All you have to do is receive. Thanks for being with me today and talking about this awesome gift of chastity. I know we've talked about a lot. We've talked about how the world has distorted not only our bodies, but sexuality, and how Christ came into the world to show us what true love is as a total, faithful, fruitful, and free gift. And when we live outside of that plan, specifically in sex, we come out with a lot of wounds. But the cool part, and what I really want you to remember, is that there's always hope. And if you give your life in chastity, it's going to be a life of joy and freedom and hope and so many great things if we just say yes. We live in a world where people are literally running into burning buildings to get warm. Okay, sounds weird. What do I mean by that? Well, people are so starving for love that they're jumping into all these sexual relationships and lust, trying to find the meaning and trying to find fulfillment. And what we think our church is saying is, sex is wrong, sex is bad, don't go in there, you're going to die. And if you go into a burning building, you will die. And we think our only option is, but I'm freezing, I'm starving, I want love. See, our church is not saying, don't go in there, sex is bad, you're going to die. What our church is saying is, I know the desires of your heart. I know that you are craving love. But see, beyond all of these things of sex and the culture, there is a God and a fire of love that is beyond anything. There is a love that will fill every part of your heart. There is a bread that will satiate every hunger within you. In Scripture, it says, I am the bread of life. All who come to me will never hunger. I want to share some practical tips today of 6 things that can really help you live out this gift of chastity. Number 1, make a commitment. Make a commitment today to really live out this virtue. Sign a chastity card. Write a letter to your future husband. Buy a chastity ring. Decide today, I want to start anew, no matter what your past looks like. Number 2, find holy friends. You cannot do this alone, and you're going to need a sisterhood of great friends to hold you accountable, to build you up, to speak truth to you. Just like that friend that came up to me and said, Mary, why are you dating that guy? He's a jerk. We need sisters to do that, to lead us into chastity. Number 3, don't settle for scraps. Don't settle for guys that aren't going to lead you in holiness. Don't settle for men who aren't going to guard and love you and see you as a gift and the beautiful woman that you are. Number 4, set specific boundaries. What do I mean by that? Well, oftentimes we have this question of, well, how far can I go? And I want to propose a different question. How far can we really hold back this virtue of purity? It's not about how far we can go, but how pure can we be? Set those specific boundaries ahead of time, because when you're with your boyfriend and things are getting hot and you're making out or doing whatever, which we'll talk about, it's probably not the best time to say, oh, by the way, I'm chastity girl. Usually by date 2, early in the relationship, I tell the guy I'm dating that chastity is important to me. And you know with how he responds if he's really loving you for who you are and not just your body. Number 5, avoid temptation. You know, in scripture it says that our eyes are the window to our soul. So protect what we see on television, what we read in the magazines, the books. Make sure that you're living a life of purity through your eyes and what you listen to in music. And also avoid the mere occasion of sin. What I mean by that is when you're on a date with your boyfriend and he invites you to his house, and when his parents aren't home in the basement, it's probably not the best place to go because you're going to be really tempted. So avoid the near occasion of sin. Number 6, pray. Pray, pray, pray. It is the most powerful tool that we have in our church. Pray for your chastity. Pray to Our Lady. She is so awesome. And just pray for her protection. As a mother, she will guard and just protect you in that virtue of chastity. Pray for your future husband. Pray for the gentlemen that are also doing this series. They need our prayers. They are under great attack in our culture and our world. And pray that God can really give you the strength to live out this virtuous life. Finally, take courage. You are not alone. There are so many women in this church who are walking with you in this virtue of chastity, are praying for you. I'm going to be praying for you. Thank you so much for this time. And just remember, Christ came and says that I've come to give you life and life to the fullest.